On there. Check 1, 2. All right, here we go. Ooh. Hi, everybody. It's almost agreement time. We got Becky Massey as a state senator in. We're going to go over and do a quick review of some of the happenings and the whatnots and the what went down this year in the state legislature. I'm having issues, so I'm sorry. Hold on a second. What is going on? This is weird. All right, let's try this again. Repeat intro for everybody watching on YouTube right now. We are almost in agreement. We have Senator Becky Massey here with us today. We are going to talk about some of this year's session in review. For those of you who don't know, Becky is my state senator for this district, and we're going to talk about what went through this year and some of the things that she's excited about, and follow through on a couple of the ones that we've talked about in previous interviews. Other than that, we're going to go and see what else is new and then let her go back to vacation, because it's been a long 2020-21 already. So I'm going to get the intro out of the way, and we're going to get down to business. All right. What's going on? I'm having struggles. There we go. All right. Becky, how you doing? I'm sorry. That was the worst technical I've had in a long time.
I am great. How are you doing?
I am well. All right. So I wanted to chat with you about what we did this year, because usually like News Sentinel, one of them will do their what's going on, what goes into effect July 1 thing in mid-June or whatever, and I figured we'd get a head start and be the first to play the game. And so Austin had sent me a
very comprehensive list of everything.
Yes.
Just to preface, the bills go into effect in 3 different ways. 1, they go into effect upon signing by the governor. 2, on July 1st. 3, on next January 1st. So, and it's hard for me to keep up actually when each of them go into effect, basically. But that's the 3 different ways, more or less, timetables that they can go into effect.
Because that was one of the big questions one of the first questions I had in the more structural part of the conversation was what some of the things mean. So like there's a couple of things, and I think your medical marijuana one is one of them, that's going into summer study, and what that means.
No, actually, well, my original medical cannabis bill passed basically through both major committees in the Senate, and it was on par to actually pass on the Senate floor. It passed, the House version passed in the Health Committee, but it basically lost by 1 vote in the Criminal Justice Committee. And actually, had it been a tie, which one member was maybe going to pass on it, who ended up voting no, Speaker Sexton was ready to come break the tie. So it was that close in the House. But what they did, there was another bill that was a medical cannabis bill. And basically what that one does is it sets up a medical cannabis commission, and that goes into effect immediately upon signing. So it is in effect already.
Okay.
And that will set up a commission that will basically be looking at when Washington deschedules marijuana, basically medical marijuana, basically, that we will be ready to know how are we going to grow it, distribute it, prescribe it, regulate it, the whole 9 yards, instead of waiting until they do it,
right,
and then having to figure it all out. So as a part of that, though, they took a portion of my bill. Actually, back in 15, I passed the only actually cannabis related bill that has passed, and that made it basically decriminalized it. So if there was kids, there were these kids that had just major amount of seizures, and it would allow them to purchase a low THC oil out of state, and it would be legal basically for them to have it in Tennessee.
Okay.
So what they did was they added 8 more diseases to that from my bill this year.
Okay.
So it was kind of a compromise bill, basically.
So we're moving in the right direction, but we're just
Yes.
we're not all the way there yet. Because I mean,
No.
yeah, we've talked about it before, and I'll go through my little diatribe real quick one more time. I think it is in our economic best interest as a state to go ahead and go full recreational, get it out there, get in front of it, so that we can build our own infrastructure. Because I always joke all the time, when we do, because we will eventually do so, that's the whole point of the bill we were just talking about, is when it becomes federally legal, we'll be importing from other states for retail. And
Yes.
if we already have it here, why would I go buy it from California or Colorado when I already have a good producer here, where when they start at zero at the same time we all go federally legal, then I'm going to import the people that are better at it, and those are going to be the Colorados and Californias. Anyway, we got more things to talk about than that, so I'm going to change what everybody's looking at here to our sessions highlights stuff. All right, so the first one's the budget. I don't care. We don't need to talk about that one. Sales tax holiday. Yeah, never mind. Education stuff. All right, so Senate 7002. What is this? What? Help me out. Help me understand what this one is.
Okay. 7,000. You think I remember bill numbers, so I'm going to have to follow along with.
Well, that's why.
That's my own bill numbers.
I took extra effort to make sure that it was visible for you and everybody, so that we could kind of read together.
Okay. Well, you think I could see that, Patrick. But anyway, okay. I have my own version on my iPad, so we're good. That is basically a learning loss remediation. During the pandemic, between the schools being disrupted, between doing some people virtual, some people in person, there was considered a fair amount of some people, they termed it learning loss. I know some educators did not really like that terminology, but whatever, there was a digression in our students as far as their ability, as far as what they knew. There actually has been studies that kids lose a fair amount of what they have learned in summer,
right?
Especially if they're not doing any remediation or just enrichment type programs.
Right, and especially last year we had an exceptionally long summer. Since summer started at spring break, it never returned.
Correct. So this is setting up some after school mini camps and also some summer learning camps for some of the kids that need it most. It will help strengthen the 3rd grade reading retention, and there's going to be a lot of extra resources. There's Reading 360 resources that are doing that the Department of Ed is doing for families, so they can work on things at home. They've rolled out new books. You know, we have the books from birth to 6th that Dolly has done,
right?
But this is expanding upon that and giving extra resources. They posted it here this past week, K through 2. So there's going to be a lot of effort to try to get more, a larger percentage of our children at reading level, grade level by 3rd grade, which is kind of one of the key metrics we've been having trouble with.
Okay. After that, I'm assuming do you have the same copy as me? Are we in the same order?
I think we are.
Okay.
Yes.
So 7003 is a continuation of the same thing. 7009 is an increase in teacher pay. I would like to do a whole set or series of shows on BEP and school funding. We don't need to do that today. These are all kind of.
BEP is challenging. So yes.
Yeah, I could do I'm convinced that I could do like an 8-part series and go through a bunch of different people and really try to hammer it down and still probably not understand it on the other side.
Actually, a good person that could help, that might be a good person for you, is former State Rep Bill Dunn.
Okay.
He was for years on the education committee, but he also is working some now with the State Department of Ed, and he would be a good resource for you.
Okay, I will definitely
So,
follow that one up because I've had Ron McPherson, who's the local finance guy for us in the Knox County schools, and we've talked about it, and he's explained it, and he's telling me that I understand it better than most, which I always joke about is a pretty sad thing for Knox County residents if I'm the smart one on this one.
yeah. Well, it's a lot of your legislators, unless they're on education, have trouble with the
Right.
BEP.
All right, and so then,
So it's a complicated thing. Probably the biggest one there is the Mental Health Trust Fund. That was in the budget last year, and when we did a zero-based budget last year, every new improvement got cut out,
right.
and so we're able to put that back in, and that funds, obviously there's never enough money for the mental health supports that we need, but this will be there to help with some of our kids
Okay,
that
so
need extra mental health supports.
all right, so let me
That's important.
to understand correctly, this was supposed to go into effect last year, but when we adjusted the budget because of the pandemic, we pulled it out.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then the one right before that, 774, pretty straightforward. If I understand it correctly, it's essentially that if a school or a school district lost the number, their enrollment
Average daily attendance.
right. If that went down
Yes.
because of it, they're not going to lose the funding in accordance to it. Teacher shortages. Let's skip way
Correct.
past
So
this.
what was
Go ahead.
what was happening is some people were homeschooled, some people they just couldn't find different things, and so the school systems were concerned that they were going to lose money from what they normally get.
Right.
And
Because
they're held harmless
right, because the
basically for this
BEP
year.
formula is based on that attendance number moving forward.
Uh-huh.
And since it was a weird year, we don't want to punish schools for having to suffer through the last year like the rest of us did. I get that one for sure. Textbook transparency 1304. So is that because that's one of the things, I don't know. You know what? Let's just skip the school stuff. That's a whole separate animal of things. I want to get into some of the more everyday, some of my listeners that aren't parents kind of stuff. So I'm jumping way down to the children/crimes against children. We have Evelyn's Law 327.
Okay, hold on just a sec. Let me.
I know
Okay,
I'm jumping around. I didn't get a good chance to read through all of this before we got together. It was a busy. It's been a busy week. That one's Tennessee.
Well, we remember the child that was missing, and that Evelyn Boswell, where there was a lot of press on that, and basically this is in response to that, and that there parents in Tennessee who do not report children missing within 24 hours could be charged with a misdemeanor.
Okay, and
So it's just basically following up because they didn't report her missing that quickly.
gotcha. And so for clarification, what is the state's definition of a child, age-wise?
That would be, I mean, I think it'd be anything. It's a good question. I think it'd be anything under 18 would be a child.
Because again, it's just these are the little tidbits that I'm super curious about. All right, 867 is Eli's Law. Guardrails to protect children from abusive parents. It allows the Department of Children's Services to investigate the birth of subsequent children born to parents who have had previous children removed from them. So it basically
let's say they take a child away from somebody for abuse,
right?
From Susan. Okay, they take them away from Susan. Well, then Susan has another baby. Well, she might be more likely to abuse that child. So they are going to keep up with that basically and follow up because it's happened that Eli was, I believe, a child that was abused, a subsequent birth that was abused.
Gotcha. Okay, so basically, it's if you've had a kid, yeah. Okay, so if you've had a kid taken away, or you've had issues with child abuse in the past, and you have a new kid, you're basically going to be under scrutiny from the beginning of that child's life.
It's DCS's responsibility to follow up and make sure the baby's safe.
Okay. Children severe child abuse, exposure to dangerous drugs. 1530 expands the definition of severe child abuse to involve their exposure to certain extremely dangerous or illegal drugs. It provides an individual that knowingly.
Self-explanatory. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, because going back to where we started, I mean, by definition, pot's an illegal drug. Does a parent who either self-medicates or recreationally uses marijuana now under the severe child abuse heading?
I believe that one just says to such
okay.
drugs as cocaine, methamphetamine, or fentanyl will be guilty.
Okay, yeah, I didn't finish reading the section before I asked the question. My fault. It was there, self-explanatory. Child neglect, endangerment.
And just for your information, any of these, see where it's in blue, you can click on that and go see the bill.
Cool. I will probably do that in the future. Excellent. Children, child neglect and endangerment, exposed to dangerous drugs. Expands the definition of child neglect and endangerment to include the exposure of a child to methamphetamine. Okay, so that's a continuation of the last one. Safe home for trafficked children's number 214 requires law enforcement to alert the Department of Children's Services when they take a minor into custody on charges of prostitution, or a child can appropriately be placed in a safe home. This helps ensure the child will receive professional assistance. Okay, fine, that makes sense. Human trafficking lifetime ban on a commercial license. Makes sense. Sexual assault and human trafficking victim self-defense number 189 allows those threatened with grave sexual abuse such as rape to use deadly force in self-defense. That makes sense. I'm scrolling down a little bit more, trying to find something that's a little more confusing to me. One that I saw, and I didn't see it in here, that I had a question about, is it there was one on changing the age for Amber Alerts to 21. Did I misunderstand that one when I saw it? I saw it in the paper. I didn't see it in this.
I don't remember.
Okay.
So, I mean, I did, I passed the Silver Alert bill that will now make that statewide. We were one of the few states that did not have a statewide Silver Alert for vulnerable seniors or people with disabilities that wander and or go missing. And I actually talked to a lady whose husband had taken a wrong turn down the road, and I mean, he'd gotten lost, and they didn't find him for a week, and he had passed away.
Oh, wow.
And so now it will be under TBI's jurisdiction. They won't go out at this point on your phone alert, but they will, as soon as one is missing, it will go through all the media statewide, and it will be monitored in all law enforcement statewide.
Right, because I get alerts from one of the news stations as well as for the regular Amber Alerts. Like, I get a pop-up on my phone when an Amber Alert goes out from like WBR or one of them as well.
Yeah.
1121 adds new section to Tennessee code that puts in place specific penalties for the theft of mail, which includes packages, bags, etc. The first offense would continue to be punished on the value items or however legislation basically. So multiple porch piracies becomes a Class E felony.
Right.
No, all right. So just to help me understand what I'm reading, to make sure I'm reading it right. So it says in the very end, it says in brackets, it says White, which is whomever introduced the bill, I'm assuming. Would be
yes, she was the Senate sponsor.
Okay, and then transmitted to the governor on 5/3. So, is there a deadline for the governor to sign off on all this stuff, or is this? And this has not been updated since they sent it out. This gives us an overview of some of the major bills to start with. They have 10 days to sign it. And after 10 days, if they don't sign it, it goes. I mean, the governor, it can do three things. They can sign it within the 10 days. They can, it can go into law without signing it, or the governor can veto it. Okay, so a lack of signature would be goes into law without.
Yes.
So if it sits on his desk for 2 weeks, it's past the deadline, and it's law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No,
One other thing I wanted to add,
sure.
because I don't even know if it's on there. Oh yeah, under the domestic violence, this one's a pretty interesting one that I had sponsored. That was back up just a little bit, 216, and basically, it's a training course that barbers and cosmetologists and folks like that have to go through one time. They go through their initial licensure, or they have a 1 hour course that they can take if they're already licensed to help recognize domestic violence, because oftentimes folks that are being abused will still go, go get their hair done or different things, and they would be able to recognize some of those signs and could help refer them to the help that they need.
I'm glad you brought that.
So and I was the sponsor of that.
Cool. I'm glad you brought that one back, because I did have a question on that when I saw it in passing the other day as well. So does it obligate a barber or cosmetologist to take action if the signs are present?
There is no fine. They don't get in trouble for them not to, but it behooves them to refer them to the resources that they need. They'll understand how important it is by
Right.
taking this 1 hour course.
Right. And then the other question I had on it was if is there any protections if they misread a situation or imply, or I guess a slander type of thing, if it is brought to if they they go through the course and the signs are there and they take issue with or whatever, and it's a false accusal, is there any repercussion or protection from repercussion for them on that?
Well, let's say I was being abused and
Right.
I was getting my hair done. They would, if they recognize those signs, and you have a really good relationship with the person you go get your hair done with. I mean, a lot of people
especially the
do.
ladies do. Yes,
And
indeed.
yes, and well, men too. I mean, my husband and I go actually to the same person. He calls him a barber, I call him a hairdresser, but but you do have good conversations. So they would, they would get into a conversation, and you could say, no, I burned myself curling my hair or something. I mean, they don't, the customer doesn't have to take the advice, but it's a step to help with it.
Okay.
And the course is developed by some of the statewide domestic violence organizations.
Okay, because again,
So
my concern is if there's an obligation to, or if there's some sort of repercussion for failure to, or something like that,
No.
That would be my fear. Because one of the things I got in a big long conversation with one of my cosmetologists, barbers, whatever, at one point about the licensure requirements and the testing and stuff like that. Which one of them she told me was they have to be able to identify someone who is carrying lice, which makes total sense, and the procedure or whatever, and how you deal with that situation. But she also told me that she is actually obligated to not tell you that you have lice if she finds it on you. And I thought that was a weird little ism of the of the rules.
Interesting.
Because I believe the argument is that it would come across as a medical diagnosis, and they don't have a medical license, they have a cosmetology license. And so since that comes across as a diagnosis, they can't do it. And it's just, I jokingly told her, I was like, well, next time it happens, just call me and I'll come in and I'll just point at the person in the chair and be like, hey, you got lice, and you get that looked at. Because then they didn't do it, even though that would still be skirting the law, but whatever.
Yeah. They have a board that makes their rules, and all of their rules that they put into place have to go through our government operations committee. So, okay. So I just wanted to pull you back at.
No, that was a good one, because that was one I had those questions on, and in all of this, because I mean, what's the total count here? I mean, so there was over 7,000 at least introduced. Is that, am I somewhere in that range?
No. There's not that many have been introduced. They may, it's usually about somewhere between 500 and 600 pass. And so it's maybe 1,800 something that are introduced, but some are just duplicates. Some are, people have no intention of running. Some are caption bills that they're there in case something comes up during session that they need. So, and then some just don't pass. Don't make it through committee. Most bills that where they're going to get held up is in committee.
Gotcha.
So that catalytic converter, though, we just had news about some people stealing catalytic converters in Knoxville here this past week, I think, and I didn't realize how valuable those are. And so it just increases, it just sets some things in place to, as far as identifying and penalties for that.
I mean, we're in Tennessee. You don't even technically need to have one, so just take it off and sell it yourself. Then you don't have to worry about getting theft. Bad jokes. That's what I do.
Yeah. My husband, when he sold his 10-year-old car, got almost nothing for it. He probably could have gotten more for the catalytic converter.
For sure.
By itself.
Murder against a person who is acting against marriage. Fire makes it reckless endangerment subject in a Class C felony to fire a firearm from within a motor vehicle. I'm just reading out loud. I'm trying to see if I.
Apparently, I was reading some little website, the bills in Tennessee, or laws in Tennessee that were supposedly still in place. And technically, the only thing you can shoot from a moving vehicle is a whale in Tennessee.
Makes sense.
I'm like, okay, really?
Well,
like
I know in the TWRA handbook, there's rules on one of the funny ones, if I remember correctly, is you cannot shoot from a boat that is moving forward. So if the boat is still or floating backwards, you can fire from a boat. If everything else lines up, if it's deer season and the deer are there and blah, 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 you can shoot from a boat if it is stable and still, but you cannot shoot from it moving forward. And it may be all vehicles in that friends. I can't remember what it was, but it was just funny because it didn't say anything about you can't do it going backwards or being stable. Like, so you could sit in the back of your truck and fire, but you can't be driving your truck and fire while hunting on public lands or whatever, all that super detailed stuff. 676 criminal justice reform gives judges the discretion to provide treatment to an offender. This is one that you talked about before. So you're doing drug treatment instead of jail, essentially?
Right. And basically the criminal justice reform was really one of the governor's top priorities this year. And so the whole key is to basically have the most violent folks that are the most danger to society in jail, and in jail for a good length of time. And there was actually a truth in sentencing legislation that was passed. But people that maybe have some mental health issues, that maybe have some drug issues that really aren't a danger to society per se, to try to get them the treatment that they need, and really looking at, who needs to be where for what the offense was. So that was really a whole lot of that was kind of the theme of all the criminal justice reform bills this year.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm kind of scanning through those. Prisons.
Expungement for employment is a big deal, which it helps with to remove barriers for employment and education for nonviolent and low-level assault offenses, because a lot of times people will get out of jail, but then because they have trouble getting employment, and so that hopefully will help there.
Gotcha.
And most of these bills that we're talking about too, the ones that you read about in the paper or hear about on the news are more the sensational ones that we don't spend that much time on. But these are most of these passed very bipartisan support, very overwhelming majorities. And they're things that really make a difference, maybe not in, your life, but they'll make a difference in a lot of people's lives and can be just life altering.
Yeah, I'm going to intentionally avoid a couple of them, like the bathroom and I've talked enough times about the bathroom things and the school sports. So I was going to just breeze right by those. Prison cell phones, 442 makes it a felony for an inmate to possess a cell phone or other electronic devices while in prison to curb them from being used in planning escapes, drug dealing, money extortions, witness/victim. Okay.
That's been a big problem, and they're already not supposed to have them, but it basically increases the penalty um, for an inmate to possess them. They're really used in a lot of the gangs in the prisons,
Right.
and they use it for extortion. They'll have somebody call their family to get money to, it's a big problem, and there's several federal rules and regulations that where we can't like jam them and different things like that. So this is one effort in that.
Okay. Because I mean that's something that we talk about a lot. Is that I mean what Tennessee is 250 almost as a years old as a state, somewhere in there, 240 something.
225 on June 1st.
I didn't mean to call you old,
And
Tennessee. I'm sorry.
and it was and it actually there's going to be some big celebrations around the state all year, but the governor is going to be in Knoxville at Blunt Mansion on June 1st, and they have the original desk that William Blunt signed the original statehood papers on.
Neat.
So it's pretty cool.
Cool.
But
well, because I bring
go ahead. Any of these that at some point, you ought to get Senator Briggs to do your show if you haven't, because he chairs state and local, and that is over the prisons. That's over all kind of laws that have to do specifically with the state, with the local laws, all the alcohol laws. So I mean, and he would be a really good one for you to delve in any of those areas at some point too.
It's the one great thing about the show. The more shows I do, the longer the list gets.
Before?
I have not. He's been on the list, but he's not. I've not made him. I've not made the acquaintance yet. Now that session's over, it might be a little easier to pull off too, I suppose.
Yeah, he's great. He's fascinating. He was an Army doctor for 25 years, and he's a thoracic heart surgeon. But he actually operated on 3 international presidents and babysat Saddam Hussein for a week, 12 hours a day. So
nice.
It's got some fascinating
life
stories too.
Good. That'll be fun. All right. So I'm moving down to emergency services / first responder, Senate Bill 1380. Improves law enforcement policies to ensure officers continue to excel in their role, keeping Tennesseans safe on recommendations from Governor Lee's Use of Force Policies Committee. Banning chokeholds. Chokehold training.
Basically, this cleared up statewide of what most of our local police forces, peace officers already do, but it basically discussed the chokeholds, and it had to be in a life-threatening situation. It prohibited no-knock warrants.
Right, that's my big. That's probably my favorite thing in this entire session is the banning of the no-knock warrants in future.
Yeah, and this really to increase their training on de-escalation policies. So just and how to intervene with not excessive force. So just with all the things going on nationally and in the news and everything, this was something that we wanted to make sure was very clear, and that was a statewide policy and not just city by city or county by county.
Yeah, I like that one for the most part. I think I'll have to read the whole thing and see if I missed anything, but the short version of it is right on par, and I agree. The first responders murdering thing, higher crime for it. I don't know. That's one of those that on a philosophical level, I struggle with. I guess it's both 841, 842, and 440. That it's one of those things that, and again, I don't know how to word this without sounding super selfish, so I'll just say it. It's like, why would a police officer have more value, or the murderer of a police officer get more, be assigned more value for information than I would be? We're all citizens, right?
That's true. I guess, and there have been a number of bills over the years as far as folks, whether it's our medical personnel that are put in a more of a vulnerable situation, or different things. And so this is kind of in the line of that. But the reasoning probably would be is that they're putting themselves out there, which makes them more vulnerable to murder, as opposed to you and me. I mean, yeah, we can be murdered, but we may not be putting ourselves out there every day with the potential of being murdered.
Right.
So,
I respect the premise. It's just one of those that it's the broader philosophical
I agree.
because I think on the grand scheme of that section of the conversation, especially, is that I think one of the biggest issues we're having, not just locally or statewide, but nationally it's the relationship between law enforcement and the public, and things like this, which basically says, well, they aren't the same as the public, I think is one of those things that concerns me in that long-term attitude of how we relate to one another. Like, my super simple version being we're growing this us and them mentality, and that's I think long-term that's going to get more dangerous over time.
Right. Well, and as I've told you, when you are looking at bills, sometimes there's portions of it that you agree with. There's portions that you maybe don't agree with, and sometimes you have to look at the big picture. Sometimes you have to split a hair to decide how to vote. Sometimes, like I say, both sides can be right. So, your argument on that is definitely a valid argument. But anyway, most bills that you vote on are pretty cut and dry.
Right.
So at least 90% of them.
And I'm very much enjoying exploring this with you, and I'm seeing that as we're going down it for sure. Railroad safety, ambulance services, general welfare, social services. The TANF's number 751.
Okay, that is a big bill. That's the temporary assistance for needy families. There's been a lot of press about how we have gotten way too much in our reserves and have not been spending it all for what we needed to spend it all for. And this is help for low-income Tennessee families to get back on their feet. It's basically it's putting a cap. I'm kind of looking at that, but then I've got it puts a cap on how much reserve that we can have in there. It also it creates a 2-year pilot program which provides enhanced cash assistance to individuals who are actively pursuing educational opportunities, which kind of incentivizes that. It increases the TANF allotment. So a family of 3, the TANF portion would go from 277 to 387. It would there's going to do TANF reserve investments, and it establishes and I'm reading from kind of the talk. I have a whole sheet on TANF, and so I cheated. It establishes the Tennessee Opportunity Pilot Program, which will distribute $180 million. That will fund 7 pilot programs, 2 in each Grand Division, and 1 to be offered by the Department of Human Services to create large-scale programs, which will offer planning grants to agencies to develop their projects, then funds these large pilots for over 3 years. The pilots established for this program will be subject to third-party academic review to determine their effectiveness. It'll also create the Families First Community Grants Program, which will allocate $50 million, which will infuse TANF reserve funds into the community organizations providing services to low-income family. So basically, the second one will be for smaller nonprofits, and the first one, they're going to be competing statewide for these bigger grants. And a lot of times, I know there's several nonprofits in the Knoxville area that are looking at going together to really do some transformational type things to help families get out of poverty and to get on their feet. It's going to have a TANF advisory board, which will kind of be overseeing, the TANF thing. So this will hopefully get it back on track to really not ever getting up to the level that we've been at, and to really make sure the funds are really making a significant difference statewide.
Okay, so the issue, one of the issues that was fixed by this is that the organization as a whole spent more time saving money than spending it where they were supposed to, and this is a way to kind of force that hand.
Yes.
Okay. That was what I was hearing. And in there you said something, and this is one of those things that I find myself, I think I know what it means, but you said the Grand Division, that's the 3 subsections of the state.
East, the 3 stars of Tennessee,
Right.
East, Middle, and West.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those, like, you like,
So
go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah, because you hear phrases, like I hear phrases out of it watching the news and stuff like that, and it's like, I think I know what that means, but I might as well take the chance to clarify and make sure I'm not conflating it with something wholly different. Graduate medical assistants, prescription drugs.
And those graduate medical, those are a big deal too. I mean, because basically the federal government funds the graduate medical education, and that's the number of docs that we're primary care physicians. And so that particular one, increases them in our rural communities and establishes residency opportunities. So this will help increase the number of docs we have in Tennessee, and that has not been growing here in Tennessee.
Okay.
So that's a huge investment and is a big deal.
Oh.
So, and that was Senator Briggs's bill.
Gotcha. And he's the doctor, so it makes sense.
Yes.
Here's your Tennessee Medical Cannabis Commission. Well, not yours, but the one you were referencing when we were talking earlier.
Well, the combined one, yes.
Right.
I was the co-prime sponsor of it. Wasn't the main one, but I was helped him get it passed when mine didn't pass. But I'd already signed on because I felt like it was a good partner with my bill to begin with.
Right. It also adds to the list of current patients who are legally allowed to bring 0.9% THC oil products into the state for personal use per their physician, including cancer, ALS, and multiple sclerosis. That's the portion.
There's 9, there's epilepsy, cancer, ALS, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, and I'm going to leave out some of them, but there's 9 diseases. And in fact, there was an article that one of my peers sent me last night that there was a family that had a son with epilepsy seizures, and they didn't even know that they could have already been using it for the seizures. But because of the publicity this bill has gotten this year, she's already gotten some of the oil and is using it, and it's already. She said he was having about 10 seizures a day that would take 30 minutes to recover from each one, and it's already reduced him down to 2.
Nice, very nice. So, those are always good stories.
Yeah.
Senate Bill 319 allows for chiropractic services to be covered under TennCare.
Yes.
I have issues with chiropractic services, so I just wanted to call attention to that. Anyway, I'll save that for later. For the Volunteer Health Care Services Bill 929 adds
that was for remote area medical, which I sponsored, and basically during the emergency orders, they were able to use out-of-state docs to do telehealth, and so what we did was make that permanent. That if these out-of-state docs that are volunteering their time to see folks at a free clinic in Tennessee, which is what remote area medical RAM does, they specialize in, then they're able to do that. It's similar to the compacts we have with states in different medical fields.
Right.
But this one this will expand, they never have enough docs. And so this will expand those opportunities. And they're a super good organization.
All right,
I'll help them anytime I can.
Very nice. Here's one. 777 formulates a better response strategy for the state in case of statewide epidemic. Yeah. I don't know why that word looked funny to me. It implements a statewide collaborative pharmacy practice agreement with licensed pharmacists to administer vaccines. Okay, so that's just opening up
to pharmacists to give the vaccine.
Gotcha. And then vaccine and individual rights. This one's got some controversy, I recall. 187 prevents a law enforcement agency, government entity, the governor or chief executive of local government from requiring citizens to receive the vaccine against their will. Students of public higher education institutions who are enrolled in medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, and other healthcare professions may be subject to positive rules. Okay. All right. So that's I don't have to get a shot if I don't want to.
Correct. I mean, it's basically public entities. If you worked at a private entity, whether, like let's say a private nursing home, and they need their staff to be vaccinated. They can a private entity, a private business can 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 require their staff to do that. But a public entity, a public school, a public university, the state government, any public entities cannot cannot require that. And it's amazing the number of people that had concerns with vaccinations, and we could get 400 emails overnight on those kind of things, and most of them weren't even from your district, but we'd go through and just answer the ones from the district, but
Right.
or from at least Knox County anyway. So
Now,
and,
did I see one that went through that was this is on the vaccine kind of or the virus conversation, that the state of Tennessee will no longer give the title of essential and non-essential workers? Like that's something that's coming off of the.
essential businesses.
Okay.
I think there was one with essential businesses where we won't pick the winners and the losers.
Right. And I agree with that. I agree with that one because my job's essential to me and my family.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely. And a lot when the businesses were closed down, we let your Home Depots and Walmarts open, and they really, once you were in the door, they really couldn't social distance people. Whereas if you had a small business, you really could keep people kind of separated. I mean, in that scheme. So it's, I think we did it kind of backwards.
Gotcha.
But
Here
anyway.
it is. 1573. Essential Workers Act prohibits local governments from issuing an executive order, resolution, or ordinance establishing categories or classes of essential and non-essential businesses for the purposes of requiring them to cease operations, blah, 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 blah. While we're there, 775, the COVID recovery F&E taxes exempts COVID-19 relief payments received between March 1 and March 31 from the state's franchise excise taxes. Okay, that's one for that's why we have an accountant.
Yes.
The TN Business Fairness Act, 474, allows businesses to remain open during the pandemic or the health emergency following the guidelines issued by government.
I'm trying to get, I think I'm off where you are.
You're cool. It is the Jobs, Businesses, and Commerce section.
Okay.
/ COVID-19 recovery. On mine, it's page 17.
Okay, I'm missing it, but anyway, go ahead and explain it. I'll find it.
It's no big deal. I was just we did 1573, which is the essential workers that doesn't let the businesses be whatever. Any COVID relief money received is exempt from the state's franchise and excise tax.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
I was just reading through it. 474 allows businesses to remain open. We already did that one. Film and animation opportunities. 736 allows more incentives for qualified animation or film productions to do business in Tennessee. What does that mean?
Let's see.
736. 736.
736.
Trying to steal some of the.
You were, but.
Trying to steal some of that Georgia film industry.
I mean, that would be all it would do is incentivize filmmaking here in Tennessee.
Apprenticeship programs.
That apprenticeship program is pretty cool. That's just that will help enhance the opportunities for apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships, youth apprenticeships, and registered apprenticeships, and it will just help with offer high-paying jobs in-demand jobs like healthcare and information technology. So that's the ways to help increase our employment opportunities.
Okay. I'm going down into election laws and ethics. This one is Senate Bill 8.
Pretty much on election things, just in brief, we have where we go in and election officials go in and help folks in nursing homes vote. So they're adding assisted living facilities. Our election laws actually are really pretty good in Tennessee, and we really did not have hardly any problems. So
Uh-oh. She froze on me. And I was agreeing with that. The
voting precincts,
Yeah.
voting areas, as opposed to going to your precinct. They'd made the counties that were already doing it permanent. They'd added a few more counties to it. They're trying to do it a little at a time before they take that statewide.
Okay.
Only other thing on mail-in ballots, they're going to have a watermark on there, but we really feel like that our elections are done really well. So.
One day permissions. Okay, we're getting towards the second, the latter portion here. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I have a lot of questions about. The permitless carry goes into effect. That comes with longer or stronger penalties for gun theft. Everybody knows about that one. Firearm Information Privacy Protection Act creates a Class E felony for any public personnel that intentionally discloses information about the owner of a firearm for the purposes of federal firearms registry and confiscating the firearm.
That's just basically personal privacy.
Okay, I'm good with privacy. I like privacy.
People cannot just, yeah.
1334 doesn't let a registry exist. 557 prohibits the expenditure of state or local funds to enforce any federal law. Okay, this is that 10th Amendment conversation that the governor referenced in his State of the State. Safety of firearms, incentivize safe storage firearms. Yep, right about this one. Sam was excited about this one. He thought that was smart. Senate Bill 551 for everybody listening. Incentivize the safe storage of firearms by exempting sales tax on gun safety devices and safes for 1 year beginning July 1. So wait till July 1st to buy a safe for your gun, everybody. Seniors, veterans. All right.
And a lot of times there's some really good bills, but because of the cost of it, you can't pass it. You can pass it all the way until it gets to the finance committee, and then it goes behind the budget, and you have to have it funded for you to ultimately pass it. And so it was nice. There was extra funds this year, and we were able to pass some of the bills that we might not have normally been able to pass. So
okay. I jumped down to consumers and alcohol. I know of a couple of these. The Senate Bill 177 for craft brewers expands craft breweries' ability to distribute on their own, where it used to be you could go inside your county, but that was it. But now you can go statewide as a craft brewer without bringing in a third-party wholesaler.
Up to 1,800 barrels.
Right. I'd have to think about how much that is. It's a lot. Because what everybody calls a keg is a half barrel, so 3,600 of those. That's a lot of beer. The to-go booze stays and delivery of beer
made that permanent.
I called that one, I believe. I'll have to go back and find the episode, but I'm pretty sure that was my prediction that post-pandemic we would keep that one in place. I think people liked it. All right, here's one. 1211. The Text Message Anti-Phishing Act clarifies that text messages sent and received on smartphones or devices are subject to the state's Anti-Phishing Act, which makes representing yourself as a person while online a crime. This measure ensures the same offenses apply with a person using text messages to defraud Tennesseans. Okay. All right, I get that one, I suppose. State joint resolution.
2 constitutional amendments.
Yeah.
That and there will basically be more. To do a constitutional amendment, you have to pass it in 1 2-year session by a simple majority, and then you have to pass it in the next 2-year General Assembly by a 2/3 majority. So these are the first 2 that have passed by a 2/3 majority. One of them is mine.
Yeah, we talked about this one.
Temporary incapacitation. And the second one is the right to work constitutional amendment. We are a right to work state. We'll be putting it in the Constitution. So they will be next year on the ballot when the governor's on the ballot, and they have to get at least one more vote than the number of votes that votes in the governor's race. So that's how that works.
So of total votes?
Yes.
So a simple majority of the number of votes, but it has to have at least one more than the governor's.
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird little.
One more of the, yeah.
So how many people live in the state? How many?
Well, there's basically 7 million that live in the state.
So if
I mean, but it will be the number that vote. They have to get at least 50% plus one of the number of people that vote in the gubernatorial.
Oh, okay. Okay, so not more than the governor. Okay, that was what was weird. Okay, I get it. That makes more sense.
I'm sorry.
No, that was me. I made some weird jump that didn't make any sense, and then I confused myself further. Davy Crockett statue.
That is the statue that was torn down during one of the protests in Nashville because of some of his racial, decades and decades racial thing. This is going to put Davy Crockett there instead.
Okay. All right.
So that will be when you're looking at the Capitol from Legislative Plaza. That will be the statue that you'll see looking up at the Capitol. So if you want to, here I'll show you here because I have it as a. So from let's see where that statue is right there.
Mm-hmm. Right in the middle.
Yeah. That will be where Davy Crockett will go.
Okay. Property owners. There's our multi-use stadium, 783. The Titans are going to do a tax thing. The Gaming and Sports Advisory Council.
Huge thing in Nashville, yeah.
Senate Bill 588 transfers the duties and powers of the Tennessee Education Lottery Corporation regarding sports gaming to the newly created Sports Wagering Advisory Council, who will oversee the operations and management. Okay, so since we allow sports betting digitally, both the lottery and sports betting are going to go under a new council. All right, that's the end of my list. Froze up again. My internet. I'm going to have to get better internet, everybody. But Senate Bill 157 prohibits property owners from knowingly distributing alcohol. Oh, there you are. You froze up for a second.
Oh, the lottery. The sports betting will be under. Sorry.
No, you're okay. It's not your fault. Probably mine. And we're doing it again. Oh, well.
No worries.
All right. Okay. There we go. Back at it. So, yeah, the gaming. So, since we allow sports betting, the lottery was doing it. Is the lottery still on it? Is now back on its own, and then the sports betting is going to be its own council, or are they switching to a new thing?
Correct.
Okay. So the lottery goes back to the way it used to be.
They'll be each on their own.
Okay. I think if we're going to whatever, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I know I asked you in the beginning, but that was one of our technical difficulties times. So there's a number of items that Sam, one of my co-hosts, was telling me about that went to summer study. What does that mean?
Well, it varies. Summer study can mean that they're just killed. They're just not going to hear them. But see, any bill that is brought up in the first year of the 2-year session stays alive until it either passes or it's defeated. It can be brought back at any time, whether it's gone to summer study, whether it's what's called general sub, or whether it's just moved to the next calendar, or they've just not done anything on it. There are some bills that people, quote, send to summer study that they really do an in-depth summer study on. And what that means is they can do a half a day, they can do a full day, they can do several days, where they bring in people to testify, to really look a whole lot more in depth than what the time they have to do in normal committee hearings. A lot of bills in committees get anywhere from 5 minutes to 10 minutes on average. There's some that may take an hour or two that are more controversial. But a summer study, if it really is going to summer study, it's where it's sometime off session. It doesn't have to be in the summer; it can be in the fall. But they give a more in-depth hearing on it.
Okay, and then they can do some adjustments to it, and because it doesn't officially die until it dies, which in this cycle that we're in next, the beginning of 22 when the next session starts, that bill will still be there and active. Okay, that helps answer why there's so many numbers, even though you only did because okay, that makes sense. All right. See, this is what I'm super interested in trying to understand how these parts and pieces work. I like it a lot.
You've learned a lot more since even when we first got together.
I know. I've got my yellow blue book that I've been reading on and off from time to time, catching little tidbits here and there.
What you need to do sometime next year is come down and spend the day with me in Nashville.
Well, I got to find me some more sponsors so I can quit my day job, and then I will. Absolutely. Well, Becky,
I said one day. I mean,
if I'm going to Nashville, I'm going to make a trip of it and bring the family and do all sorts of stuff. But
like I say, we're in off session now, which means we're in the district doing lots of different meetings. We'll have some meetings over in Nashville, but I'm meeting with businesses, with individuals that just want to sit down. I've already met with somebody that is interested in something more on, basically folks that that are raped or are sexually abused, and has helped with legislation in some other states and wants me to look at it in Tennessee. So this is a time that we kind of all get together and spend more time in the district visiting and kind of talking about what needs are going forward.
Okay. That's it. I mean, as mentioned, this is the last thing. I don't know what I just mumbled off into nothing. The last thing I want to ask you is, because it's one of those things that I assumed one thing and I'm hearing different things. How much do you get paid to be a state senator?
It's basically the base salary is $22,000.
Okay, and then there's like a per diem when you're in session and having to spend time in Nashville to pay for hotels or whatever.
Right.
Okay, because that was I don't know. I assumed it was like 75, 85, somewhere in there at least.
It is considered, it's figured as a part-time job, but it's really full-time responsibilities.
Right, and it's certainly full-time for while you're in session, because you spend all the time not at home, so it'd be hard to hold a job.
It's more than full-time when you're in session.
I understand. All right, Becky, is there anything else that you think that I missed that we need to cover real quick, and then we can call it a day?
No, I just let's see if there's any of my other bills that I did do a BUI, boating under the influence bill that put penalties for boating under the influence of alcohol the same as if you're driving under the influence.
Okay.
And then I also did a state as a model disability employer, which is basically trying to encourage the state to actually recruit, retain, and hire folks with any type of disability.
Yeah, I remember
those were two that.
Right, we had talked about you working on that one. Good, that's fantastic. All right, real quick, I did think of a question on the BUI one. Is it in the count? Is it this? Will it match the county that it's in, or is it going to be a state standard?
Well, there already is a state standard on the penalties for a DUI. And so it matches that.
Well, I guess my question is, I know is it Blount County, you can be a passenger and drink, but the driver can't be drinking? But in like the city of Knoxville, if you have a drink open in the car, it counts. Right. Right. So if my buddy's out,
that's different than.
Go ahead.
The driving, the key is the driving.
Okay.
If you're driving a car, car or if you're driving a boat, the penalties will match.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Statewide.
All right. That's what
And
I was
those
curious
are
about because,
statewide.
okay. All right, Becky. Well, I appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful vacation. Enjoy the beach. Hopefully it's not too hot yet.
It's an honor to serve folks in Knox County and Tennessee, and I'm here to help. And I chair the transportation committee, but health in vulnerable populations has always been my passion. So just if you need me, contact me, and we will try to do our best to help.
All right. Well, Becky, thank you so much again. I've got some outro tunes, and you have a wonderful vacation. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Becky Manis, everybody. Yay, we did it. That was a lot of stuff. And I will post a copy of the list of stuff for you guys to make it a little simpler and easier to understand, or so that you can follow along or go through and click through and find the actual details of all of them. We are Almost in Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Our website is up and running. It's almostinagreement.com. You can go there and get all the episodes, or you can go to your favorite podcast provider and get them there. Wherever place you like to get them, please send us a like, a share, write a good review, tell your friends about us, all that stuff. We're going to keep pushing through and keep getting more stuff going on. I've got at least a couple more this week on the docket, and we got these city races and so much more to do. So we're Almost in Agreement. Thanks for listening. You guys have a great, great day.